Welcome to Monday. It's March 8th, 2021. For this podcast, we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on after what was just a fabulous weekend of weather throughout the Rocky Mountain West and the Western High Plains. Things are really going to change. So we got a lot to talk about. Since we have a lot to talk about, I was going to today bring out our long-range forecast for spring and summer. We're going to do that tomorrow. But today we've got too much to talk about to get to that. So tomorrow we'll update you with our long-range forecast. So stay tuned tomorrow for that. In the short term, though, we've got two major weather events this week. After March coming in like a lamb, going to act like a lion here, first system comes in Tuesday night through late Wednesday. This will be especially affecting central Wyoming, portions of western Nebraska, South Dakota. It's going to be those areas that feel the impacts the most with this first storm. Then we have the potential for a four-corner storm that could bring major impacts to the region late Thursday through Sunday. We all know what four corners storms do, especially in the spring. So we're going to watch that one really carefully. We'll take a close look at that. Stock growers, travelers, you need to pay close attention. A lot of times when we get these nice long stretches of spring-like weather like we just endured is a lot of times a signal that there's big changes coming. So be prepared for some changing weather, stock growers and travelers. Here's the setup today. We've got this large, deep low pressure system off the coast of Washington and Oregon. We have that mild southwest wind flow coming up out of the desert states that's keeping a lot of the nation, including here, very, very mild. But notice this area of blue up here with that little tongue of green jutting out right here. This is a pocket of some much colder air that's going to be allowed to head southeast. This pocket of colder air that's up here in British Columbia and the Yukon is going to get a push southeast and will be moving into Montana and lower portions of Saskatchewan and Alberta and British Columbia as we get on into tomorrow. This low right here is going to split into two, with one big piece swinging down here, another smaller piece getting kicked off and coming over the colder air. And that's what we see developing by Wednesday morning. Now, it doesn't look like much, but you see this little dip right here? This is a pocket of energy and low pressure and moisture in the upper levels that's going to come right across Wyoming, Montana, and South Dakota at the same time. There's colder air that's coming in from the north, with this area of colder air up here dropping south and east. Notice what will happen as I advance the maps with this low here. So it's basically the same storm that's going to cause two storms as the pattern unfolds. What we have by noon Wednesday is much colder air coming on in. So despite the very warm temperatures we're experiencing now and will for most of tomorrow, that pocket of colder air comes in and is going to be overrun by that Pacific moisture right here. And the end result, this is the precipitation forecast through Thursday morning. Notice this area of blue going back, from Lander, Riverton, Casper, along the I-80 corridor here. This is the area here that is going to be most impacted. Chadron, Alliance, Lusk, Douglas, Casper, back over to Lander, and then down into the northern areas of the Laramie Range, but also up here around KC and Buffalo, south of Gillette, up to areas around Newcastle here along I-90, south of I-90. This is the area where there's going to be the biggest impacts. Now, this area desperately needs moisture, so this is not a bad thing, but stock growers and travelers, there's going to be some winter weather there, but that moisture is absolutely great to see. You can see that most of the moisture in Colorado is in the mountains and on the western slope and the back into Wasatch, Utah here. So these areas will get wet, but the eastern plains of Colorado with this first storm won't get a lot. Now, the secondary system is going to be a one to watch. This is the snowfall forecast through Thursday morning. So you can see these areas here. This snow right here is the most snow I have seen on the weather charts for central and east central Wyoming in this area here in quite a while. So this will be a little bit of a shock to the system for you folks in that part of the region that really have not had much snow this winter. As we take a look at this next low, the Four Corners low, what I'm going to show you is our different computer model solutions. This is for right around sunrise time Saturday morning. By late Friday into Saturday, that storm, that same one that's up here now, which splits into two pieces, sets up shop right at the Four Corners area. Now, what I want you to pay a close attention to is the number of circles. These are basically areas of equal pressure. The more circles you have that are closed around it are a good indication of how well organized and strong it is. So when we see that, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of jet stream energy, there's a lot of cold air aloft. This is a typical situation that you're going to get into March with systems like this. If you remember, early last week, we had that small low go across Colorado and into western Kansas. Well, basically, it's the same pattern, but with a much larger storm now. As we go into the day Saturday and into Sunday, in fact, I think as early as Friday, we're going to see some rain and snow out of this system. What I'm going to show you is what transpires from Saturday morning to Sunday morning. Look what happens. We see the logo from the Four Corners into northeastern Colorado, and notice there are more circles. What happens is, as it comes over the divide, it deepens. Now, this would be what we would call a textbook March snowstorm, if this happens. If this happens right here, Wyoming, Nebraska, Colorado, parts of Kansas will have a major March storm. However, our confidence is moderate. This is far enough out that we can't really say that this is a given. Now, what I'm going to show you now is the difference in the computer modeling. Now, for the same time frame, this is the computer model with the Europeans. The European model, the European Center model, shows a really intense, strong storm over northwest Kansas, east central Colorado. The Canadian model has a pretty decent storm, but it's not as strong. The American model is a little bit of a combination between this one and that one. Sort of a compromise there. The thing that is important to point out is all three are somewhat similar in how the storm evolves and where it's placed. If this all comes together, the European model is showing a classic upslope storm for the Front Range of Wyoming, northeastern Colorado, getting out into the plains. This would be tremendously helpful for the extreme dryness that this area is experiencing right now. So I want to show you this, but I want to caution you. This is very early in the game. We have seen situations like this winter when we think one of these Four Corner storms is going to come together. The potential is there, but we're not there yet. I want to stress strongly that we need to pay attention to this first storm, Tuesday night through Thursday morning. Then we'll focus in on the second one. There's going to be wind with it. If that low becomes intense over northeastern Colorado, we'll have wind with that system as well. And that is the snowfall forecast over the next week. Now, take this with a grain of salt. This is for display purposes only, but you can see what the potential is if everything comes together. So our high confidence is in storm number one, east central Wyoming, the Pine Ridge area of Wyoming, South Dakota, and Nebraska. Be prepared. We're expecting 5 to 10 inches of snow in that area, probably a foot or more on the Casper Mountain area. Lander is another area that could see significant snow. We have moderate confidence in storm number two. Expect variability in the modeling and the forecast the next couple of days. The storms will bring badly needed moisture to some areas. So while it will be a problem for travelers and a concern for folks with young, weak, or newborn livestock, we desperately need the moisture, so let's hope it comes together. It'll also be a good producer of snow in some of the mountain areas as well. So a lot going on this week. We'll update you tomorrow with our long-range forecast and an update on these two storms.